the hell is this a thing? Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Do You Have a License to Save That Planet? Written by Paul Ebbs and Gareth Parsons, and is directed by Bill Baggs. Now let's talk about BBV for a moment that made this film. During the wilderness years, Doctor Who was off the air, as we all know. However, a few companies tried to license characters and things from the world of Doctor Who and try to make some homemade films in that sense. Some of them were they vary in production. Real-time picture, despite the fact that they are amateur production, did try to do their best at getting the rights and making the stories that they own feel like actual stories. On the flip side of that, we have BBV. Now, BBV have also made straight-to-video films. More specifically, their most well-known product is Probe, a sort of a riff on the Unit stories featuring Liz Shaw. They also have a series of trilogies featuring the Autons. They have a film featuring the Zygons. But unlike Real Time, BBV are a lot less mature, shall we say, as they've been caught in a lot of controversy with the BBC for ripping off and breaking the license agreements that we are known with. A great example of this is their film series of The Stranger, where they have Colin Baker play a mysterious character who has unknown origins and travelling with a companion played by Nicola Bryant, which, despite the fact that they didn't have the rights to Doctor Who, was very close to Doctor Who. Later on, they had an audio series of adventures. BBV also went into the audio drama territory, and they had a bunch of stories called The Audio Adventures in Space and Time, where they would have Sylvester McCoy play the Professor, a time-travelling enigma of a character. And he would be travelling with Sophie Aldred's character, Ace. As in, Ace. Which broke the agreement. And because of that, BBV is a lot less popular and a lot less well-known than the real-time productions. And there's been this whole controversy behind the scenes with BBV. I mean, the name BBV is very similar to the BBC. And there's two ways you can think about this. We don't actually know the actual reasons, but it's one of two scenarios. A, the name of the BBV is a joke on the BBC. BBV is Bill and Bob Videos. Bob, I think it's Bob, being the nickname of Bill's wife and the co-creator of BBV. Or they made the title very similar to try and fool people into believing this is official BBC merchandise. It's one of those cases where they when they don't get the rights, they'll make characters and situations extremely similar to the official thing, to the point where it could be crossing copyright material. But this story that we're going to be talking about is a very unique situation, as this technically classes under the parody umbrella. This is a humorous effort at playing against Doctor Who and its cliches, in a sense, which does kind of fall under fair use. You can take a material if you are parodying it and changing it enough and commenting on enough of the original material. So, when we talk about do you have a license to save that planet, we've got to talk about it as its own little thing, as its own little comedy film, and as well as a parody to the franchise that we know and love. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because it introduces the Theroplopotis, also known as the Foot Doctor, played by none other than Sylvester McCoy, playing basically a parody version of the official Doctor. This story is also clearly supposed to be maybe not in the same universe, but does have very similar elements. In fact, the story starts off with Rassilon in a cartoon form and is talking about building this story up, and he's clearly going to mention the Doctor. We actually get a moment where he's trying to call the Doctor, but the Doctor is in the TARDIS. And so he calls upon the Foot Doctor. So that's basically how the story starts off with and getting us into a narrative. Now, to say the story is an amateur production is an understatement. Whilst we've talked about stories which feel like they've been filmed in a very nice person's backyard, but it feels like a nice rich backyard like Gen Genius, or you've had stories like The Crystal Conundrum, where they're on a cruise ship and stuff. This is literally filmed in people's back gardens, but not like in a luxurious kind of way, as in like literally 2 blocks behind your house kind of cheap. As in, this feels like something which could have gone straight to YouTube by a bunch of kids who are still trying to learn filmmaking in college. It's that amateur. And which is really odd because we do have licensed creatures in here. We have the Sontarans and we have the Autons. But not only do we have the Foot Doctor, we also have the Cytrons, a parody race of the Cybermen. These robots have actually appeared in their own series of adventures. And I don't know how the BBC feel about them because they are still being... Stories about them are still being made to this very day. It's really strange in that remark. Very interesting, isn't it? But anyway, and this story is incredibly weird. Like, I can't think of any... I think describing it is actually going to be pretty easy, but the overall feel of it, there's no other Doctor Who connected thing that's like this. It's basically Doctor Who meet the Deadpool fan base, not the Deadpool films, the fan base, because there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff. Maybe there's not violence and stuff, but yeah, and I don't know, it's just so bizarre. Now, to talk about the mainstream, or at least the popular opinion on this, is that this story sucks. And this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I absolutely love Do You Have a License to Save the Planet? It's just... I don't know, it is genuinely makes me laugh. It makes me genuinely laugh. Whether it was intentional or if it's so bad it's good, I don't know. But one thing I cannot criticise this story for is Sylvester McCoy. He gives this role, a role which is clearly an amateur production, and he gives it the same pathos, the same attitude he does with playing the real Doctor on TV. My God, Sylvester McCoy is just an icon because he gives the role 100% even when he's in a very amateur production. This might even be my favourite no, yeah, this is my favourite role that he's done in a fan film. He's so full of energy and he's so full of the speed on which he works with and the way he bounces off his companion in this story is just astonishing, just absolutely astonishing. But anyway, like I said at the start of the story, Rassilon starts telling a story and he's about to lead into, and eventually he's about to call on the doctor until he gets a knock on the door. One of the actual jokes is that the Rassilon has ordered the toasters of Rassilon, which is actually a joke of how in Time Lord society it's always like the something of the sash of Rassilon, the hand of Omega, like the Time Lords' obsession with their own egos kind of thing. So it still plays onto the parody. And like I said, we actually get a small little cameo appearance from the real TARDIS, and the Doctor doesn't seem to appear. The voice on the intercom on the phone call is the second Doctor, so I don't know if canonicity-wise it still works. In my head canon, I'm just going to remove that scene and just pretend that it was the seventh Doctor. Why did they not use the seventh Doctor? I don't know. Because you do actually hear the Doctor's voice, which makes it one of the rare occasions in which the Doctor unambiguously appears in a BBV production. But Rassilon can't get a hold of him, so he's like, instead of sending the real Doctor, I guess he'll have to send in the Foot Doctor, the Lubagopodus. And the Throbogopodus, his TARDIS takes the form of a washing machine, and I really like the design of his TARDIS on the interior. It's completely CGI and it looks absolutely horrible in terms of its actual effect, but it's inspired by the 1996 TV movie, and I just absolutely love that TARDIS design. So the fact that he tried to replicate it, and the fact that you do get the whole ancient, darker, gloomy, almost Victorian goth feel from it still, which is what I love about the 1996 TARDIS. Yeah, it's really cool. The Foot Doctor appears on the planet Earth, in which he comes out with his washing machine, getting clothes thrown at him, and when he steps out into the real world, this woman is just like, "Oh my God, you're him, aren't you? You are the magnificent traveller of space and time." To which he's like, "No, I'm the Thermologist, the Foot Doctor." To which this woman is like, "Actually, I got a bad ankle." And we get a scene there where the Thermologist is like, "Sorry, you must help. I cannot interfere. You must help yourself." And he like stoically turns his head like that. Now, this is a great point to talk about its parody elements. Putting the fact if it's a good story or not to one side, is it a good parody, or is it supposed to be like a silly mess with just Doctor Who connections and is right to be under strike from copyright material? I would like to note that this story was actually not taken down by the BBC, so they didn't feel anyway. Either they are not aware of this story, or they felt that this story was in line with copyright material. I feel this story does a good job at parrying the Doctor Who mythos to the point where it is classed as parody. This little scene is a great example in which we always get scenes in which the Doctor's like, "Sorry, but I cannot interfere with this time and the space and stuff." And it's kind of a bit of a cliche. And here, where it's put to the fact, it's like, he can't even help somebody with a bad ankle because, "Sorry, but I cannot interfere," is a great play on the joke and the word. I think everything to do with the Foot Doctor and his connections to the actual Doctor character really work in terms of the parody. In the story, he later joins up with a companion, the salesman, a character inspired from plane, trains and automobiles. And basically he's a fourth wall salesman, and he talks to the camera and he talks to the foot doctor about plot devices. He looks in his bag and he's like, I'm going to be your new companion. I've got, what does this mean? I've also got some, don't worry, I'll explain later moments and all of this kind of stuff, which is again play on the words, and that plays on the parody of the companions always having very cliched dialogue. They always are like, Doctor, what is this? What is that? Screaming around, running, trying to doctor, and it's like, you're never going to believe this kind of dialogue. So yeah, it's a great form of parody. And Sylvester McCoy, this guy, despite this guy's costume looking very hilariously weak, the dynamic between this companion and this foot doctor work off really well and really sells it as a parody. A nice little thing to note, Sylvester McCoy is actually wearing a mock-up jacket, one that he actually wore during Gen Genius, which is a nice little connection to something where he played a real-life doctor. He also seemed to have worn it in a documentary about the TV movie whilst it was being made. So this jacket has been following him around for quite a while. It's very strange like that. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll talk about the doctor. I know he's not the doctor, but the doctor in this story for a bit longer, his plot line than this, and then I'll talk about the rest of the elements of the story. I think that will make this video a bit more interesting. When the foot doctor gets attacked, it's one of those things where they parody as the salesman is like, why does everybody keep firing you and then firing at you? And the foot doctor's like, but it obviously makes sense. And it's a parody of like the doctor interacting with a villain, and it's like, why are you here? I'm coming to stop you. Ah, okay. Well, here's all my plans. I really like that bit. It's really good. We also get Janus Spoons, a parody to Leela's Janus Thorns. This is also another story and a great example of Sylvester McCoy playing the spoons, something which he is commonly known for and has done so in many Doctor Who stories, both official and fan-made. And we get to learn that all of this interference, who's bringing all these villains together, is a malevolent creature known as the Licenser, a parody of the Master, essentially. Well, it's not really a parody of the Master, but a parody of the ideas of BBV. We also get a great scene in which the salesman is like, basically he thinks that he's actually interacting with the real doctor, and when he like starts looking at him, he goes, BBV. Basically, the parody is that, the joke is that BBV have always had license to use Doctor Who characters, but never the Doctor himself, or nothing very concrete. And we got a similar situation with the Licenser, a parody of the Master, who wants to basically get rid of all unlicensed material so that they can make, so that all real life merchandise's material can actually make proper merchandise. Again, it breaks the fourth wall a lot. And the Cytrons are actually working with the Licenser, which the Foot Doctor is like, that's a contradiction. You are working with, your plans is to ruin all unlicensed creatures, but the Cybertrons are unlicensed creatures as well. And there's always this joke about how they're going to get like the merchandising rights and everything and turn them official. Something really funny I find is that the licensor is a parody of the master. So by extent, he is a part of something which he absolutely hates, being unofficial rip knockoffs of real life copyrighted material. That's very funny. And the Foot Doctor actually has a Seventh Doctor-like plan, and it is revealed he knew about the licenser's plan all along, and that he is going to, and he reveals that basically the planet that they're on isn't Earth. It's an unlicensed version of Earth. And because the licensor basically admits that things aren't licensed, are not real, falls into space. It's like literally he like falls down to the floor into space. And that's basically the end of the story. Prior to the actual ending, we get a nice little humorous moment of the Foot Doctor getting shot, and he does like this really weird stupid effect, and he's about to regenerate actually, and when he changes, there's a wig, a blonde wig over his face, but when removing it, it's revealed he's still Sylvester McCoy, and he states that the other two are in California, a reference to the fact that Peter Davison and Colin Baker have both made roles in BBV Productions, but they are away and they couldn't film anything for this particular film. Very funny little gag, and the story ends on actually a moment which parodies the ending of Survival, in which the doctor's like, the Foot Doctor's like looking up, is like, all of these licensings, that all these licensed planets that we can go through, until the sailman basically breaks his concentration. It's like, just remember, Foot Doctor, we're BBV, and all the planets kind of fall in the sky as if like they're like cheaper versions. So that's the end of the main story between the Foot Doctor and the salesman. But we've got to talk about the villains of this story, because there are quite a few. Mostly little gags and little moments, especially at the start where the Sontaran basically puts a pole onto the planet and it's like, we claim this for the Sontaran Empire, until an Auton points to his flag, showing that he invaded the place first. A great parody on the fact that all of these Doctor Who monsters all want to conquer Earth and stuff. So that's a really funny moment. But the story is mainly known for is the Cytrons. What the hell did I just watch? It's one of those things where you just watch and it's like, what the hell was that? I don't even know. I mean, it's one of those moments in the story where it's so odd. There's no real jokes. I mean, there are jokes. There's a great joke parodying the Cybermen. Obviously, these are a rendition of unlicensed Cybermen, in which each of the Cybertrons are like, basically want to be like the one that says, excellent. A reference to the fact how David Banks made the Cyber Leader excellent his catchphrase. So we got all that moment, and they seem to be living in a small little house, two of them, and they have all of these soldiers. One scene, their neighbour, I absolutely love the neighbours. Every time I see them, they just crack me up. They come to the house knocking because the Cytrons are new to the village, and they're just like, we got you some wine. Sorry, it's a certain wine. It gives my wife diarrhea, doesn't it? And she just collapses onto the floor. We can also get one scene like after they're all like firing at the Foot Doctor until the Cybertron leaders are like, we need to save up our armies to have a much more greater battle later on down the line. Save up the emotional suspense. And so the Cybertrons head back to their house, where the Autons start laughing and tripping them up. And then all of a sudden they're like, come on, if you think you're hard enough, like, you know, shoving in each other's faces. Until they start clicking their fingers, and they just start dancing. And it's like, what? I mean, clearly it's supposed to be a parody of West Side Story. But it doesn't work. It's absolutely mental. And what's absolutely mental is what happens next. In the neighbour's house, they hear weird noises coming from the upstairs of the next door neighbour's house. And then it cuts to the bedroom where we see that that noise was actually a Cytron and an Auton getting it on. Blood, oh my god, what the hell did I just... That bit alone is worth watching the video. I mean, let me tell you, let me stress this. The Autons in this story are licensed. They had the rights from the creator to use the Autons. And what do? They make them have sex with unofficial Cybermen rip-offs. Let's just end the video there. That is a scene that happens in this film. I just... Do you have a license to save this planet? The answer? You sure don't. But anyway, so yeah, I think I'm just going to end it there. Just go watch it. Go watch it. So like I said, when I started this video, we need to talk about two aspects, two ways of viewing this. Whether it's a good story on its own, a great little joke and stuff, and whether it works as a Doctor Who parody. As a Doctor Who parody, I think I've made it clear that I think yes, I think it does work as a parody. There's a great jokes at the expense of Doctor Who, taking fun at its cliches and all like the stupid stuff that Doctor Who is known for, especially around the whole fourth wall breaking companion, the salesman, and Sylvester McCoy playing the Foot Doctor, and his scenes are just absolutely incredible. And it's really amazing to see Sylvester McCoy give so much energy to such a bizarre little video film. I mean, this counts as a short film. I think it's only like half an hour long, but he gave it his all. But now that we answered that question, we need to answer the bigger question. Does this story work on its own? Clearly not. It's clearly, despite it's supposed to be a much more professional, not that it's not an amateur production, but clearly it's supposed to be, have more money than it actually intended. This is supposed to be a straight-to-video production. Instead, it feels like a bunch of teenagers mucking around with a camera trying to get into video school. The costumes, some of them are actually pretty decent. I especially like the Sontaran costume, but apart from that, especially the Cytrons are awful. The script and the pacing of the story is hilariously bad. Characters go back and forth to sceneries. It cuts to pointless and unnecessarily characters, even though I think they're absolutely hilarious. Like I said, the neighbour characters are actually one of my favourite characters, including in probably the most gruesome death ever put to to Doctor Who video, in my opinion. Absolutely hilarious. And the jokes, when they don't work, it's so... The word cringy comes to mind when the jokes don't work. When they don't work, you're so baffled by the fact that anybody could even think of such a terrible joke that you do laugh, or at least I laugh. So, to sum up, the story isn't for everyone. It's terrible, it's bad, but it is a good Doctor Who parody. It does play to Doctor Who's expense and points at elements of Doctor Who which didn't work and plays to them and points them out, which is what a parody should do in a humorous way. Personally, I just can't get enough of it. So I say, watch Do You Have a License to Save Your Planet? You can get it on DVD, or you can even, if you're an absolute maniac, you can get it on the original VHS. But I watched it on Daily Motion, which nobody seems to be bothered by the fact it's on there. So I'm going to say it's completely fine to watch it on there. And plus, it's a rip-off of Doctor Who, so I don't think anyone's going to be really bothered by it. I mean, it's like... It came out in 2001. Go watch it, probably, say, 90% chance it's not for you. But if you like the cringy, stupid, brain-dead entertainment, you're going to have fun with this. Do You Have a License to Save Your Planet? Go watch it. So join me next time where we will be going back to the Unit spin-off series in what is the finale, because I haven't got the rest of the series. So join me next time for Snakehead, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!